Thank you, Liel. Thanks again for everyone for coming. I want to, can you hear me? It's good? Yeah. Can we do it without the microphone? No. All right. So first I want to state the obvious. We're going to talk about a phenomena that exists within a context. And I want to be careful I don't want anyone to go out of this room and think that this colors the entire Israeli society, or this is colors our Jewish tradition or culture. And we're talking about a phenomenon that is specific, and we're going to get specific, and is rather small in number at least. So that's the obvious. Now let's get to the less obvious. On July 31st, 2015, a family home in the village of Doma was firebombed, and 3 of the 4 members of the Dewalsha family sleeping in the house were burned to death. The murderers left a statement on the wall, a graffiti that read, "Revenge and long live the King Messiah." As you can see here in the photo behind me. Why do these killers think that killing innocent people will bring the Messiah? I assume that most of you have seen this photo before and have heard something about how Jewish terror, or more generally Jewish violence, both terms that we can talk about, have to do with messianism. But how does it all come together, right? What is the rationale bridging between redemption, the coming of the Messiah, and violence? Now, I suppose also some of you have been maybe asking yourself now, why should I understand the rationale of murderers? Why we should understand how they're thinking? I believe the answer to this question is rather simple. Before the Dewalsha family tragedy, the same circles of Jewish radicals were firebombing other houses, some churches, and they wrote threatening graffitis in different places, and they attacked farmers. For quite a while, they didn't kill anyone. In other words, this trend of political violence had the same rhetorical justification as with the Dewalsha family tragedy for many years. And you may remember that the same ideas of revenge came in the graffitis in the Church of the Multiplication in Tagbe, which was finally reopened this week after 8 months of rehabilitation, following a torturing of Jewish extremists. This ideology is a sort of virus. It multiplies and it spreads, and sometimes you can carry it without exhibiting the symptoms at all. Now, the first thing a physician will tell you about a disease is that in order to cure it, you need to know it first. So that's why we're here. We want to understand it in order to be able to treat it better. Some of the thinkers in these groups explicitly call for massacring Palestinian people. They're calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. They think that Ethiopian Jews and Russian are not really Jewish and don't have a place here. And I personally take them at their word that they will actually try to carry out their ambitions. They know that their group is rather small in number, but they believe that if they escalate the situation, it will be easier for them to seize power, or at least direct things toward a war of apocalyptic dimension from which a new order will arise. I do not think that their plan is within reach at this time. However, the following question is paramount. How much damage will they do? So, in a sense, the questions we want to raise this afternoon are, how does a youngster hear about the idea of revenge in this sense? What does it mean? What do the graffitis that they write really say? Why does a young Israeli burn a church? Why does it make sense to him? How does violence even erupt? Why does it make sense for someone to firebomb a house and burn a child alive in the name of God? And beyond this, what is, if at all, Jewish about Jewish terror, about Jewish violence? What is the role of ideology and religious fundamentalism in these acts? What does other factors play in, other than ideology? Jewish radicalism is a Jewish problem. Its inner language is Jewish. Its explanations and reasoning are based on Jewish texts and thinking. It has Jewish codes and it echoes Jewish metaphors. Therefore, the first and shorter part of this event will be dedicated to a discussion of different Jewish takes on Jewish messianism. What does it mean, and how does life in the state of Israel and in the land of Israel have particular redemptive meaning in Judaism? Now, there is more than one tradition and perspective about how to deal with these concepts, and it's by no means a new trend. Judaism is a religion, a nation, a culture, or a kind of glue between people, however you want to frame it, that maintains a certain messianic tension within it. Modern Zionism, the establishment of the State of Israel, and the massive return of Jews to the land of Israel is messianic, whether it is religious or fully secular. In many ways, the story of the State of Israel can be understood through messianic prism. Broadly speaking, many secular Zionists have traded their Judaism for different shades of nationalistic ideologies, and it's like socialism, communism, liberalism, that came to embody the Jewish messianic narrative for them. Zionism, they believed, will bring redemption. A Jewish state is an answer for the anti-Semitic threats in Europe and in the Middle East. Now, most of Jewish messianism doesn't imply that murder is justifiable in the name of God. Quite the contrary. It's the opposite. There is actually a long Jewish intellectual tradition about the dangers of taking action to advance the coming of the Messiah. Arguably, what we're talking about here is a perversion. This is a move towards aggressive, violent, supremacist messianism, mostly unsupported by tradition. There is much nuance to it, which is why we cherry-picked bright and thoughtful speakers to have room for an educated discussion. In the second part of the discussion, we will move into explaining the ideology and the narrative of these vigilantes. This part will stretch for longer than the first, since it's the nitty-gritty stuff we want to learn more about. And then we'll open the floor for questions from you. There is a voice missing from this panel, the voice of those who suffer the most and pay the ultimate price for this violence. We decided not to invite a Palestinian two-seat in this panel, and this is a shortcoming, but there is a reason behind it. As I've said before, Jewish violence is a Jewish problem. It is one we must address for ourselves, and to do so, we must understand it from within. This doesn't mean that we're covering this topic from all angles. But we decided to go deeper rather than wider in this event. Gaining an understanding on how Jewish supremacists affect Palestinian society deserve at least as long and as a serious session as today, and hopefully we will hold a session entirely about that with new speakers and probably new moderator. This event was the idea of Liel Magen, who co-manages IPCRI with a Palestinian colleague. And he read an article that I wrote about Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, who I consider to be the main, or at least one of the main, spiritual and influencing this violent wave. I'll be even more specific. Two concepts that this rabbi and so-called rabbi, underlined to his followers were the idea of a kingdom, of a Jewish kingdom, the King Messiah, and the concept of revenge. He preaches the destruction of the Zionist state of Israel to be replaced with a Jewish kingdom led by this King Messiah. It's already since the 90s, the early 90s, even before. He has spoken about how revenge can be a spiritual act of piety, and the graffiti on the walls of the Dewabsha family are in a certain way his fingerprints. Now, from this we're going to move into talking about, as I said, the first part of the event, we're going to talk about these ideas about redemption and how does it connect to the state of Israel and how does it come into play. And only later we're going to move into the specific of this trend. So maybe we want to take this photo off so it won't overshadow our discussion.